Welcome back to the Academy of God. And today I wanted to share discussing what the Christian lifestyle is supposed to be about because I've noticed that in our society today, we talk a lot about the love of God. We talk a lot about how God is supposed to bless us and improve our life, which is which is true in a certain way because blessings come as a result of walking with God. But God blessing us is not why we become Christian. It's not what the Christian lifestyle is about. And I feel like the church has forgotten that being a Christian is about obeying God. It's about serving God and not God serving us. It's not about Jesus Christ meeting our every need, but it is about us meeting Jesus Christ's needs, doing what He wants us to do. It's about us building His kingdom and not Him building our kingdom. And we can see that all throughout the Bible, in fact, starting in the Garden of Eden, the reason why the fall happened wasn't because of the fruit. See, God is the one who put the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden. But the reason why mankind was kicked out of Eden wasn't because of the fruit that they ate, it was because of the disobedience they committed. They were kicked out of Eden for disobeying God. In fact, God could have chosen anything other than that tree. He could have said that you can touch any rock in the garden, but don't touch this particular rock. And it would have had the same effect because the fall happened because of disobedience. And we can see that even in the desert, when the children of Israel left Egypt, a lot of them lost their lives in the middle of the desert because of disobedience. Moses was supposed to enter the promised land, but he lost that blessing, that call, because of disobedience. The children of Israel later asked for a king, and they received Saul because they did not want God to rule over them. And Saul lost the kingdom because of disobedience. And we can see that time and time again in the Bible that it is all about obeying God. See, when we understand that being a Christian is not about God blessing us, it's about us obeying God, we start to realize that being a Christian is not the glamorized lifestyle that it has become on the internet. And I want to use Hosea as an example, a prophet in the Old Testament. Hosea, prophet of God, serving God. The first time God spoke to him, God gave him an order to go and marry a prostitute, to go and marry an adulterous woman. And he went and did it not because he wanted to. He did not do it because he was in love with that woman. He did it out of obedience. And I believe that that level of obedience, many Christians are not ready for it. Yet, this is what being a Christian is all about. It's all about obeying God. See, Hosea had to do all that, not because God wanted to bless him with a wonderful wife, no. Because God wanted to use Hosea as a sign, as a prophetic sign to the people in that time. And Hosea, out of obedience, went and married a prostitute woman. He married a woman who had children from her prostitution. He married that woman who was also an adulteress and she had lovers. And Hosea was already aware of all of those things because God revealed to him that she was that kind of woman. God already had revealed to him that she was an adulterous woman. She was going to cheat on him. But he did it so out of obedience. In fact, God even went further than that. God commanded him to love that woman. He was ordered by God to love her because it was a sign. It wasn't for him. See, it wasn't all about him. His marriage wasn't about him. It was God's plan because of what God wanted to do in a grand scheme of things. It wasn't all about himself. But today we see that in the church we think that it's all about ourselves. Our marriage is about us, our businesses is all about us and ourselves. We ask God for financial blessings because it's all about us, but God doesn't think like that. God is not here to serve us, but we are on earth to serve Him. In fact, even Jesus, the Son of God, He came to earth. He came to earth out of obedience. And we can read that in the book of Hebrew, in the New Testament, that Jesus, out of obedience to the Father, came and died on the cross for us. He did it out of obedience. Even in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he prayed to the Father, asking if that cup of suffering could be removed from him, he said at the end, "Not my will, but your will be done." So in all things, Jesus was always seeking the will of God. Why? Because Jesus was not living for himself, he was living for the Father. And he kept saying that he did not come to do his will, but to do the will of the one who sent him. And then he said the same thing to his disciples, that the one who doesn't renounce his life, the one who doesn't hate his life is not worthy of him. What does that mean? It basically meant that the person who's not willing to sacrifice everything for Jesus, meaning their ambition, their desires, what they want to accomplish in life, their dreams, all that for Jesus, they are not worthy of him. And it doesn't mean that everything you do in your life has to revolve around the church. What it basically means is that you renounce your own plans for your life and then you let God plan your life for you. Not because you want God to bless you, but because you want to serve God. And we are there to obey God and to serve Him, to serve His plans and purposes, just like Jesus did. He was obedient to God in all things. He was doing God's will in all things. He was always seeking what God wanted, not what he wanted. Yet today in the church, it's all about us. All the preachings in the church is always about us. And that's probably why a lot of people who in the church who wants to start businesses, it's not working because you want to start your businesses for yourself. You want to build your own kingdom. See, you don't go with the mindset of what does God want me to do? What can I do for him, for his kingdom? And then he will inspire you and then He will bless what He has initiated in your life, and it will succeed. We don't do like that. Even when we want to choose maybe a career in our life, we do whatever we want. And then we go pray, Lord, please bless the choices that I made. But that's not how it works. God is not there to bless the choices that we make. He blesses what He has initiated in our lives. So if God is not the one who initiated whatever you're doing in your life, don't be surprised when troubles come and then you're back begging God to help you get out of troubles in your career, in your businesses, or in your ministry, or whatever you did that wasn't aligned with what God wanted. In fact, we can observe that even more in marriages. This is the area where Christians, in fact, the world, but here we are talking about Christians. So the children of God are the most disobedient when it comes to marriages because it's basically I do what I want. I choose someone and then I ask God, is it the right person? But that's not how it works. And that's why you never hear God clearly because you already made the choice. You already chose somebody because you wanted that person in the first place. So when you ask God, you're just seeking validation. You're just seeking validation. That's why for most of you, when you go back and you ask God, is it the right person? It always comes with the yes, somehow. But what if instead of asking God, is this the right person, you were to ask God, show me the right person? Because we think marriage is about ourselves. We don't see marriage as a ministry. See, the same way when somebody is building a ministry, they're not building their ministry. You are building God's ministry. It's not your church that you are building, it's God's church that you are building. It's the same thing with marriage. We don't build the marriage that we want, but what God wants. Because in all things, even in marriages, He has a specific purpose. We don't get married for love or those emotional roller coasters that we want to experience or whatever idea we want to form as a for a family. But God has purposes for marriages. See, every marriage is a ministry. And just like any ministry, you don't just start the ministry that you want, you start the ministry that God wants. But that's not what happens a lot of time. A lot of time people marry who they want to marry when they want to marry. And then when things don't work out, you're back on your knees begging God to help you fix something that you put yourself in the first place. And that's a really tough place to be. Obedience. Being a Christian is all about sacrifice. It's all about living for God, living His dreams, living His plans. It's not about us. Obedience.